Press big button. Take 56. Down, low. Hello and welcome to another video, another podcast here on YouTube and over on Apple and Spotify. You choose. Today we've got a very special guest. As always, it is a privilege to be doing this and meeting these people who are kind enough to share their time with little old me. Anyway, I'm not going to waffle on too much because it's a good chat, this. And this gentleman, he's photographed, I don't mean peow. He's photographed people, legends, actors, you name it, from all over the world. He predominantly shoots, I'd say portraits, but as you'll hear, he has some personal projects that mean quite a lot. I find fascinating, full of heart, full of the love and craft for photography. Also, it's two for the price of one. Fred and Harry, Fred being Harry's son, who's developing an online presence with Harry and a YouTube channel that is so worth a watch, a like and subscribe. All the details are down below and the details will be on the screen throughout. So head over to YouTube and give Fred and Harry's channel a watch. Seriously, it's one of the best channels on my playlist at the moment. So that's me. I'm not going to say any more. I've already done my bit. We've pressed the big button. We're off. We're going. I give you Fred and Harry Borden.
Here's Fred. We basically we're actually we've just come back from Brighton.
Yeah.
Because we were filming something for the channel down there, and it just took way longer than we had anticipated. So Fred's flat is up 6 flights of stairs, so we've just been running up the stairs. It's really sorry for being late.
It's all right. Chill out. It's fine. Not a problem.
Fred's
sure?
just making a cup of tea.
I've watched plenty of your videos to know you're not Jeremy Clarkson. So
bit doing a Jeremy Clarkson. No.
Oh,
No, I was saying to Fred as we're running up the stairs, I was saying he's going to think we're so flaky. And I actually met up with somebody at Paddington Station before we came, which I'd arranged to meet him at 7, and he'd been waiting for about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Fred, I just can't stand being late for things needlessly, because it's such an easy thing to. I mean, it's when you're doing shoots, it's fine if you don't have any ideas or you're not very inspired, but the worst thing is to sort of trip at such a small hurdle as being late. It's so kind of avoidable, isn't it?
I can hear you out of puff there. It must be a few flights then.
It is.
You shouldn't have rushed.
I'm not a young spring chicken.
Tell me about it. I've been on since 7 o'clock anyway, so I've just been doing some beforehand recording because obviously I try and do it while it's fresh in my mind. I've got your notes and I'm probably a bit weird because I've watched every single video.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you. I mean, it's been, I said somebody else was interviewing us and asking about motivation. Yeah. And my motivation generally is to do things for the intrinsic pleasure of doing it.
Yes.
And it's just the YouTube channel is just a brilliant way for me and Fred to hang out and see a lot more of each other than we were previously. And we have a joint just enthusiasm for it, and we talk about it every day. And so here he is. He's got himself a big. What is this? A big glass of water.
Icy water.
Icy water. I've got tea here.
Oh,
although I must admit, I do have a bit of a fetish about tea being done a certain way. So I'm sure this tea is fine.
Right.
I've heated up the mug.
I have the cup has to be heated up, extra strong brew. Yeah. Bit pedantic.
These metal there is my tea, well used. well used, and it keeps really hot in these metal cups. I don't know why, but I've just got into drinking my brews out of metal cups. We should just talk about brewage all
Yeah,
night.
absolutely. What Mally was just saying, he's watched every one of our videos.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's really
Yeah.
sweet. Do you have a favorite?
Uh, I, mm, I like the Bob Geldof one.
Yeah, I agree. It's
It's
quite a
quite,
moving film. One.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a softie. I like things with real emotion, and I
Okay.
noticed like you what do we call it? Your thumbnail and your title. Is that yourself, Fred?
Which one?
Oh, the thumb.
All of them in
Oh
general.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
That,
thumbnail
that
titles are me.
that's Fred's department. I mean,
Still learning a lot, I think. Yeah.
but
Trial
we
and error and
Yeah, I mean, we sort of brainstorm sometimes a
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
but
Yeah, yeah.
Fred's very much a student of that kind of particular art form.
I'm working on it.
I can tell because of the way it's like the cat. You've got to do it. I'm not very good at it because I haven't got the interesting stories. I'm going out photographing a tree, death by tree and that kind of thing doesn't
Your
count.
your your work is very beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. My
Yeah.
goodness, I'll have that. Thank you
No,
very
no, I
much.
mean, absolutely, it's that I wouldn't say it if I didn't think it.
Well,
So
yeah. Well, I was looking at your videos. I've seen a few of them before, and then you commented saying you had been a long time watcher of their channel,
Yeah.
and then I checked out some more, and then I checked out your podcast as well.
yeah,
I'm quite new to portrait photography in a way, even though I did a bit at university in 1996, I think, at Salford. And so I've got into it a lot, I'd say, over the past 2 years.
Mm.
Researching, learning people. I've got a list of people here. Don't want to sound like a stalker, but after watching all your videos, I've got your influences down and a few questions. But then obviously I've watched the video on, is it 20 questions or you was gone? And I thought,
Yeah.
oh shit, all my questions have gone. But then I thought it doesn't matter because no one who listens to me will have heard probably some of the answers or the questions. So
I'm quite happy to repeat myself, and
You'll come up with a whole new answer
I
for
probably
each one.
will.
Yeah.
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 well, it's an absolute joy to have you both here because
Yeah, it meant a lot. Your channels, I think it's great. You come across really. I was mentioning to Harry.
He was saying how charismatic you are.
Yeah,
I'd
for
stop
sure.
it now. Come on now, stop it. You just said
Also,
sorry, go on.
I'm always a fan of other members of the bald community. I mean, maybe you don't define yourself, and that isn't how you see yourself. But I'm a fan of Larry David, and I like
Yeah,
do you know Curb Your Enthusiasm? And at
yeah,
one point,
yeah,
he referred to himself as being a member of the bald community.
yeah.
So I'm always like Eric Ten Hag, Pep
Zinedine.
obviously, Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah.
Anyone like me needs to be supported.
I just stopped fighting it. That
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to lean into it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we shouldn't really just get into talking about shaving, but I got one of these skull things. Oh
Yeah.
my God, how good are they?
Yeah. Well,
It's
Fred got one of them,
Mhm.
but I mean, he isn't as challenged as
yeah, yeah,
I am, or not challenged actually, because I think it's an opportunity to
yeah,
actually not have to worry about what you do with your hair or get a haircut or anything. But I got the cheap Remington version because
yeah,
it was actually it was a photographic printer that they used to do. They did all my when I shot on film, all my processing called Artful Dodgers, and Brian O'Leary,
yeah.
who runs that particular operation here in London, he said to me, he sent me a link, Argos Remington head shaver, and he said you won't regret it because he could tell I was clippering it off, but
Yeah, yeah,
get a satisfactory result.
yeah. They're
Yeah.
sponsored, not hashtag Remington. Are they still a thing? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Remember
Yeah,
the
we're old enough
adverts?
to remember Mr. Remington.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
it was so good, I bought the company. Do you remember that?
I do
That was,
remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is 40 odd
Pure
years.
American advertising at its best.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
we laughed at it back then, but now it's just that's how it is.
Yeah.
Everyone's so hard faced now. That's what I say about the thumbnails and the titles. Some of them are like proper catchy. Which one was it now? 81,000 views, which was like, whoa, that one video spiked huge. And I'm sure it's just because of the title, the thumbnail, and then once you've got people.
Honestly, that's the biggest challenge, is getting people to click. Like
Yeah,
our retention's pretty good. Like once
yeah,
they do click, they do watch for a considerable amount of time.
yeah,
But it's the thumbnail and title, and like I'm on like forums where people share kind of,
yeah,
or Reddit, stuff like that,
yeah,
constantly. People share their like how
yeah,
their videos are going and stuff. And
I mean that I think that's a nice there's a nice dovetail because obviously I'm like yourself, I'm relatively articulate and I can take pictures and stuff. But then Fred, was a software engineer, a back end developer, so he understands all the metrics and all the computer side of it. So
yeah.
it's not alien, and he sort of dismisses that and says it's all kind of quite intuitive, but I don't think it is. And it's very, very important to whether you can make a success of it. You have to get people to actually click in the first place.
we've still not perfected it. Like a video on Bob Geldof, like it's got how many views? Like is what 3,000 or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Like there's more than 3,000 people who I think would enjoy that video. So
Oh yeah.
so
I maybe go
Mm.
back and have a play and change. I've been doing that because I found that I was a bit tempered and I'm
Yeah.
not saying he had a moral standpoint, but it's about photography for me. And I was cutting my nose off to spite my face because I have to remember that I want to get my photography out there, but I don't want to play the algorithm game. But sadly, you've got to. So for
yeah,
me to be successful, a lot of people said to me, "Why are you not past 10,000 or at 50,000 subscribers?" Relatively speaking, videos produced 170, I think. I'm coming up to 180 videos. I'm quite happy where I am, but I do need to master the clickbait, but doing it with kind of, I've tried the
fast,
tongue
boring.
in
Yeah,
cheek. Yeah, yeah. So it is really difficult because obviously your dad there is very serious at what you do as a professional, and there's a reputation, there's a
yeah,
real
yeah, 100%. I
that
mean,
balance, yeah.
I feel bad when I'm colorizing Harry's like beautiful video, like pictures from the 90s, which are black and white,
He colorized my Demi Moore.
or like
Oh,
But it did look good,
it
because
did.
he knows about, using AI to do it, didn't you?
yeah, but, or
Yeah.
like
Wow.
even even cropping an image in, like Dad's specifically like composed these images, and if I'm
Yeah,
cropping them in, it is butchering his work.
yeah.
But you need the eye contact, you need close to the face, and
But if anyone can butcher it, it's you.
Yeah. Well, he's not only is he my son, he's also bigger than me as well. No, I think it is an interesting point that I was saying this today. When I started as a photographer, I was like with my tea, I was very, very pedantic about the crossing the I's and dotting the T's and things being perfect. And I discounted lots of images that weren't cropped in the camera perfectly. The horizon wasn't straight or whatever,
Yeah,
because I like to print them with the black border, the rebate, with of the negative. And as I've got older, and as you get older, you get more soulful. And I've had my best friend got esophageal cancer, and he died. And you realize that nothing really is very important, and I shouldn't be so pedantic and obsessive about controlling every aspect of things. So I just sort of think it's lovely to collaborate, and that happened first when I did my first book, the book on Holocaust survivors. In 2017, a woman that wanted to get involved and she helped me with that book. It
yeah.
wouldn't be a book now if I didn't get her involved as well, because she sort of lit a fire under my ass to get me to do it.
I've wrote here what fires your photography furnace. So
I have a lot of energy because he was worried that we are going to be tired for this because we've been driving all day.
yeah.
And I've driven from the southwest to pick these guys up, then go to Brighton, then
Oof.
come back and then do this. And I said, don't worry, I'll bring the energy. I mean, I do have good energy reserves and, fit and healthy and stuff.
Yeah,
But I just think, I have an enthusiasm for it. But fundamentally, in my life, I just follow the path of least resistance. I'm quite lazy, really. It just so happens that I'm enthusiastic about photography. If it was
yeah,
something else, I wouldn't be very good. I was a terrible assistant. I assisted John Swanell, who was
Oh,
a
why, I've
yeah.
heard of him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when I was an assistant to him, I was working on a commercial in North Wales for Timotei, and I would drive after a day's work. I would drive the rushes back to Technicolor in West London to be processed. I'd
Wow.
stay in London, and then I'd drive them back up to the. And I went to get the hire car to drive down, and I crashed it into a tree because I was fiddling with the radio. Wrote it off, and that was the last time I worked for John Swanell. So, it's basically it's only the fact that I really love the medium
Yeah.
means that I kind of like have sort of been able to throw myself into it. And the same with doing this channel. If it stops being fun, we would stop doing it, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It has
couldn't, I just connect with that so much because that's exactly where I am myself at the moment, that I work as a graphic
It shows in your
designer.
channel. I think it shows in your channel.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
You're
Everything
into
that you've said, though, that energy just comes from the fact that it is a deep-rooted obsession, love.
Mm.
It comes easy. Although you said you shouldn't say to someone that you're a fan because it ruins it from here on. So I'm not going to say that at all. But
No, did you list? I don't know whether I said this about the. I've written about it, but when I was a big Smiths fan,
yeah,
and of course, I met Andy O'Rourke and Mike Joyce, and then the big moment I got to photograph Johnny Marr, and it
yeah,
was at the Landmark Hotel, posh hotel in London, and it was Stuart Marconi, who's like on Radio 2 now,
yeah.
and he was writing the interview, and he did the interview downstairs in the sort of atrium area, and then Johnny and I retired to his a room upstairs to do the shoot, and it was sort of really still and quiet in the room, just me and him, no assistant. And then I sort of said to him, I told him how much I loved his music and how every night I went to sleep listening to my little Walkman, listening
Not weird.
to, Hatful of Hollow.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
weird at all. Like staring at him intensely, and it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just he was classy about it. But I mean, that was when I learned that lesson. It's just
yeah, yeah,
keep your powder dry, and
yeah, yeah,
just concentrate on trying to be not trying to be cool, but just tell him afterwards, you
yeah,
know.
oh,
yeah.
it-
I'll tell you
oh,
after then. I'll tell you after. I love Johnny Marr as well, but he's new to me. I've known of the Smiths, obviously, but I started
Mm.
playing guitar about a month ago,
Oh,
and
he's brilliant guitarist. Yeah,
I've just been watching just Johnny Marr
yeah.
because of the chords and the rhythmic way that he plays. And again, he has that key of youth because of
Mm.
that obsession with his music and guitar, and you can feel it and hear it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how his connection to you as a listener. I find that
Mm.
with other photographers, other artists, that there's this line what they cross where it becomes almost like a part of them, like yourself. All that you
Mm.
shoot. I actually wrote something here. I have got a load of questions, but it's great we're not using them. I love it when it's like that. So I think I put down. Oh God, where's it gone? Where's it gone? Here we go. Oh no,
well,
I've got things about Fred at the top, so we'll come to that in a minute because when I've
your
searched
audio
for you,
quality is
you're
really
quite an.
good.
Sorry,
No, your audio quality is very crisp. I was
is
wondering what
it?
mic that is. Yeah, it sounds good.
It's
Yeah,
a Shure something. I don't know what it is.
look it up. That's one
XLR.
thing we're struggling with is audio. We
Yeah,
have a
Yeah.
well,
master.
this room's quite echoey, so it is difficult. So I've got this really close to me, which I'm still learning. I have a friend called Neil James who he used to be on Radio One, and he does a podcast now called The Photo Walk, and his audio is exceptional. So I picked a few
Oh yeah,
bits up
I think I've
off
heard of
him.
him. Is he on YouTube as well with the photo walk?
Yeah, he started posting his podcast on there because this is audio only as well. There's no video. I don't put the Zoom footage out. YouTube really doesn't like podcasts, I feel. I was putting out an hour-long podcast and I did 10 of them on YouTube and it killed my channel. So I've,
Mm.
but I just love meeting people who are creatives, and I'm just honoured that you're here because you're mustard. Let's face it, So Thank you
that's
so much for your time, because I do adore your photography and your ethic. You've got an outlook that I feel is true. It's truthful. You've been through it. You've had to be someone as well that I struggle being. You're talking to these massive characters, and you must sometimes have to be quite dominant and overpowering to just knock them into shape or get them to do what you want to, but you don't come across like that. But I get that feeling that, putting someone's toothbrush down the toilet and what you said,
That, yeah.
you
We
know,
need to do a video about that
I
one.
was shocked when I heard that. That
Well,
was
no, basically, I was with the person we were talking to today. I was just telling him because we were talking about psychotherapy and so on.
yeah,
And after
yeah,
I sort of split up with Fred's mum, I
yeah.
sort of went to see a therapist in many ways to prove to her that I was sort of addressing some of the issues that,
I
she
can
may or
change.
I can change. But, it's fine. But basically, the therapist pointed out when he learned what I did for a living, that the perfect background environment that you would have if you wanted to photograph celebrities would be a narcissistic parent, because you have to be hyper vigilant to their moods and their kind of where
Wow.
they're at psychologically.
Yeah,
And so I do think kind of the somewhat sort of chaotic and kind of abandoned childhood that I had, and my sister too,
yeah,
and it probably, it was tough. It kind of made us who we are in a sense, because my sister's a very self-reliant and independent and interesting creative person. She's a painter. Her
painter.
name's
Yeah,
Fran.
yeah,
Yeah, and my brother's a painter as well. But I do think that kind of I wouldn't say I overpower them, but I do kind of have my cousin actually, another cousin. I was talking about this. I think men, it's more of a male trait, but I do have this sort of facility that I think mo all men have, or it's a more of a masculine thing. Women have it too, of a sort of a nuclear button, that a
mm,
sort of a something, a kind of an underlying sort of energy that, I think I don't think I'm inherently a victim. I'm not somebody that can be like easily pushed around. I
yeah,
think,
It's a masculine trait
no,
though.
I think it's more.
It's a unique trait, like,
Yeah,
and you either have it or you don't.
yeah, I mean, Fred's worried I'm going to get cancelled. But I do think there are sort of fundamentally male traits, and obviously they're disproportionately gifted to men, and there are fundamentally female traits, and I have a lot of female traits, which so I'm good at
yeah.
communication and warmth
No, I
and
agree
empathy.
with that. I agree with that. I
I don't
do.
think it's a controversial thing to
I'm
say,
just,
No,
but ba-
we're all
but
we're all unique in our way, and there are certain
yeah.
things that go one way or another.
Yeah, yeah. I would also say that a lot of the best portrait photographers are female, because it isn't any
Yeah,
longer about stamping people with authority and dominance. It's more
yeah,
about cultivating an intimate relationship. And
yes,
in my experience, women, more women tend to have those traits, and therefore there are more brilliant women, female photographers.
yeah,
I mean, the best known and best paid photographer in the world is Annie Leibovitz.
yeah,
It's not some guy, I can't really think of a male equivalent anywhere near the sort of profile of
yeah,
Annie Leibovitz.
yeah,
So, but I definitely think it's more an energy and a kind of attitude that I have when I get in to meet people. I mean, I don't photograph as many sort of celebrities as I used to. That's probably a reflection of how the industry has changed, because printed media, as I keep sort of Fred keeps hearing me say, is in terminal decline.
yes.
And so I'm lucky that I do get commissions and I get to photograph Jeremy Clarkson, but I'm happy sort
you're
of.
still shooting quite regularly.
Yeah, I do shoot regularly, but I'm happy to sort of have that in parallel with my sort of book projects, which are kind of like
Yeah,
my great passion. And it's lovely to be the genesis, to come from you rather than who happens to phone you up. Even if somebody phones you up and you're really pleased to go because it's Keir Starmer and you're going to be going to Rome or something, it's
hmm,
nice to have an idea and then bring it and it eventually comes out in book form, and it's people are interviewing you about it and someone else might be coming and taking your picture.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of the questions I've got about make a thing. And then, you know, you've got we've got the Jew that made a thing. And this really caught my eye. I think actually that possibly is my favorite.
I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased because I love that.
Favorite.
We love that bit. We love that film.
I put a large slice of fucking life.
Yeah. You know what? Some lovely news about that. Al, you saw how much work he made.
Oh.
I mean, he had a huge impact on me.
Yeah.
He was sort of like the dad that I didn't have, because he worked with my dad in advertising in New York before I was born. And interestingly, he sort of said that my dad was a bit of a bully, and you know, the kind of guy that everyone liked, and he was a bit of a wise guy. But there was an edge to him, and I grew up with that man.
Right.
Whereas Al was a really gentle, lovely, lovely man, and I spent 2 weeks, in various a few years apart in New York, staying with him, and he had a huge impact on me, and I just thought he's a great kind of role model, because he didn't really care about anything apart from making his work, and he was loved by so many. There were so many students. He sort of, I think he was part of some artist league in New York, a sort of an association, and all these terrific young people, they all loved him. And so
Yeah.
I was so pleased that I love the fact that Fred was able to take an incoherent bunch of garbage that I'd sort of created in 2014. I mean, I just, you know, it would never have come to anything. It's the value again of collaboration, and then create something like he did. And the beautiful part of that, the postscript, is that 2 days ago I got a message on Facebook Messenger from Al's son, who his family loved that movie,
Oh.
and they basically showed it to this huge gallery in New York, and they're going to have a massive exhibition of Al's work, which is going to be sold off and to raise money for one of the charities that Al was really keen to support. And they want to play the film in the gallery, which is terrific.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we're gonna change it at his family's insistence from the Jew that made a thing, because that's considered a bit contentious. But
I think just make a thing. It's now called
make a thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wrote make a thing because again, though, YouTube, it's a great title. It deserves a lot more views than it gets. That one.
Yeah, there's certain videos which like I make and I think, oh, I hope this gets so many views. But for that one, I just didn't care. Like,
no,
we wanted to make it. We were happy with it. And yeah, that's what mattered to us.
Yeah, I
haven't put as much effort into the thumbnail.
That was my idea, to have the thumbnail just red like that, and it was. I thought
it's more like a movie poster or something.
We're going to change it for the gallery, because he was an atheist, and so his identity wasn't.
He does say he's a Jew in it, but his family are insistent he was an atheist, and to be honest, as he got older, he kind of steered further away from religion.
And it was probably to do with me, because when the first occasion when I stayed with him, I was photographing Holocaust survivors in New York.
The
book, and then I sent him a copy of the book when it was published, and he doesn't know how Facebook works, so his Facebook status just said, "Harry, you did it, you made it," or something like that
on his status. Yeah,
exactly. It was so funny. But no, it's been lovely getting the opportunity to honor him and make a thing.
100%.
Yeah, it stood out, and the filming's beautiful as well, and the way he edited it and put it together. It reminds me of Ted Forbes. He did some series that got released on Amazon, actually. Something Light. It's gone now, the name. I don't know if you've heard of Ted Forbes, American YouTuber, stroke photographer. And he interviewed artists. Yeah. But you went a step further, because it wasn't about an interview of an artist. It was about an interview of a person, and that person, to me, held the keys to life. The simplicity, the way he lived, was so inspiring. That he
Agreed.
had everything he needed, didn't he?
I mean, I think I said in the when Fred interviewed me, the following film, I talked. There was so much stuff we left out, but I'd get back to the flat. I was going and seeing magazines like Being Important, going and seeing Esquire, American
Yeah.
Esquire, American GQ, and I had my suitcase, and he had all these cats in his flat, and I'd wake up in the morning, my suitcase was just full of flat cats because they were all curled up in little balls in
Wow.
my suitcase,
Yeah.
getting fur all
Oh,
over the clothes. And, I'd get back after having seen all these magazines and he'd leave me little notes and messages and photographs that he'd taken on the metro. And he was just such a talented and brilliant
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. We could
Full of,
talk about that all night, actually, because yeah, the four hugs wide as well. That resonates with me as a tree hugger. But
mm,
the project, all your projects that you do, uh, you can see that these are for love or more for what you like to do. The divorce project really got me as well. That's
mm, mm.
unusual, and obviously, Bob
Yeah.
Geldof wrote the forward for that. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, Bob Geldof did the Single Dad book.
Sorry,
So that was
single dad.
mainly.
Sorry, yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yep,
So
sorry.
that was really about fatherhood.
Yeah,
And that was really came out of the fact that when Jane, Fred's mum, and I split up, I think the reason we were able to successfully navigate the sort of minefield of post-divorce sort of trauma and sadness and the belittling of our ego, well, in my case, my ego, was the fact that, there was a lot of love there and we were still completely united in our concern for what would happen with the kids and stuff. And so they were always at the front and center. We always put them first. So like I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, and it's so sad when, especially when children are involved, where when people start using the children or belittling the other person and letting their
yeah.
ego get way,
That's the key, isn't it? The
yeah,
dark ego that everyone has. That it's all about
absolutely.
a battle of wills, then, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
listen,
ultimately, it's an amazing. This is why kind of I do think that in a sort of Darwinian sense, I'm not a kind of a religious person, but it's so kind of fundamental. It kind of changes you as a person. I mean, when I got divorced, and I rebounded into another relationship to be honest, but I have no regrets because I have my fourth child and he's amazing. He's such a great kid. And but I after that and I actually decided to let the grass grow and the dust settle and not kind of rush into anything. I really
After you broke up with,
After I broke up with Abby,
yeah,
Florian's mum, Abby Trailer Smith, who's a photographer as
all
well,
right, yeah,
brilliant photographer.
yeah,
I basically came to the conclusion that I was only interested in dating people or women. People, I'm not open to I'm open to the possibility of dating a man, but I don't think I'm that way wired. But basically, I was only interested in people that basically had children because it's sort of such a profound altering of your kind of the way you're wired. Because when you're young your ego sort of dictates that you're kind of we were talking about this earlier about how you obsess about your career and your place in the world, and then
mhm,
for the first time in your life when you have children you have to put someone else in front of you, and it's one way traffic. You give to them and you don't expect anything back.
yeah,
And I think it really kind of, I think hardship and catastrophe and difficult situations kind of actually are a blessing or an opportunity often because it's definitely made me a better person, a better man, and informed my photography as well. I probably would have been still concentrating on doing celebrities if I hadn't split up with Jane. Splitting up with Jade made me sort of actually question, my choices, and it's very kind of tempting to carry on photographing these famous people because everyone's interested, but
yeah.
ultimately it's quite shallow, and
I, yeah, yeah. Not that I've been ignoring the fact you shoot celebrities, but I think everything you've spoke about is what I really wanted to talk about with you. And thank you for going deeper into that, because that wisdom is learnt through crisis, like you say. There's a calmness about it as well. And I've wrote down here about which takes me to meaning absence of thought whilst you're filled with thought. Your celebrity pictures, the more I look at, say, celebrity politicians, humans, shall we say, because it doesn't really matter who you are, just because they're known, or they're in our peripheral, we see them every day, or they become a household name. They have all the same troubles and problems as we do. And you have this knack of pulling something out of this. It's like you're looking into the soul. I can't explain it, but some of the pictures freak me out a bit. Margaret Thatcher one is quite macabre. There's that got me. And then the one with Tony Blair near the Black Door. Do you go for subconscious? Are you looking for these like hidden meanings? Are they just serendipity?
It's interesting you said absence of thought.
Yeah,
that is Harry's catchphrase. That is
actually, I say that to people, just absence of thought.
Yeah.
I always say that to people.
It's almost meditative, like.
Yeah.
Do you know where in Harry Potter he gets the dream out of the water?
I haven't actually watched much Harry Potter.
Yeah, no, me neither. But I basically what was the question again? Because I did have the answer.
There wasn't really.
Yeah. No, I mean what I do is basically
maybe
it's a bit like jazz in terms of the way I work. It's improvised and in the moment. So what I have done is become sufficiently good at the mechanics of photography, sort of exposing a sensor or film to light, and that it's kind of like second nature. It's sort of in my muscle memory. So I'm not really, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, then I'm not sort of I'm not appearing as though my mind is elsewhere. I'm sort of sufficiently in control of the medium that I can just relax and be playful. And that's when the magic happens. That's when, John Coltrane or, Miles Davis produce their best work, is when they're just being playful and completely relaxed and in that flow state.
Yes.
And if I don't, it's really, really about indulging myself. And so I just sort of like today, I just sort of see the pictures and all the other preconceived ideas and meditated sort of notes about the person and all their background, they just really clog everything up.
Yeah.
I just concentrate on just arriving. And like when I met Margaret Thatcher, it's like she loomed large in my kind of upbringing, because you're probably about the same age as me, and she was this huge kind of figure, wasn't she? Kind of villain in many ways.
Yeah, quite scary. Yeah.
Yeah, quite scary, but at the same time kind of iconic. And but I just sort of saw her as she was a nice old person, who was clearly succumbing to frailty, in terms of her she was 2007, there was some cognitive decline. And I think I fail occasionally when I have too many preconceived ideas and everything. So I try and really just go in to a situation, as you said, instead of thinking, well, this is Bob Geldof. I mean, and Bob Geldof in particular is an intimidating man.
Yeah.
But he is objectively a really articulate, brilliant man. He's a brilliant writer. What he wrote for my single parent dad book is brilliant. I mean, it's just a pleasure and a privilege meeting somebody like that. So I remember on our shoot that I did, which was probably the second time I photographed him. It's really memorable because it was during the vote for the Scottish referendum, and everything he said, he'd be your dinner party guest, because everything he said was really, really well thought through and original and fascinating sort of way that he was able to kind of contextualize the world. And I
Yeah.
remember he said we were talking about that, and he said he was obviously against Scotland and England separating, and he said, I've, where I grew up, I know about nationalism and it doesn't lead anywhere good. And I can remember him saying that now, probably
Yeah.
like 10 years later.
Yeah.
So most of the time, the people that you're photographing them because they're quite exceptional in some way. So it's actually a privilege to meet them. So I just sort
Yes.
of, for my own selfish reasons, I sort of asked them about, so when I did Steve Coogan, I liked Saxondale. I don't know if you've ever saw Saxondale, where he played a roadie. It's a less known Steve Coogan performance,
Oh
but
no, I've not seen that.
he
No.
didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it, and he
Yeah.
plays with Ruth Jones as his long-suffering girlfriend, Mags.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant show. And I think he was, he's tricky, but I think he kind of, we were the same age, and he appreciated the fact that I said to him, why are there no more Saxondales? It's such a good program. The obvious one is Alan Partridge. Everyone
Yeah.
would probably ask him about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just indulge myself and sort of, as I said, I'm sufficiently in control of all the photography stuff that it's
Yeah.
just I'm having a good conversation, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at the light, which, I have a sort of an acuity that's developed over 30 years to understand light and sort of where it's coming from and what it's doing. And while I'm having this conversation, I'm sort of slightly aware of that, and then it's just dovetailing the two together in the moment.
I love how you take all those years and condense it into. This is one of the things that come across on your videos. Is there's no um the big I am. You're talking about a lot of experience brought down into a lot of knowledge that's just effortless, but you say it in such a way that anyone can do it. And that does come across. I think that'll be the golden thing with your channel, is that people are compelled to watch you because what you're saying is so fluent and not. There's no ego there. You've just explained all these many years in taking a photograph naturally, whereas you're shooting a lot on the Hasselblad as well, which is a damn hard camera to shoot with. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like anything though. You do
Yeah, yeah.
if you do use a Hasselblad enough.
Every
I
day. Yeah.
wouldn't like to go back to the Hasselblad now that I'm
No.
using a Fuji digital camera.
Yeah.
Uh, but I did use it for the single parent dad book, and it's a bit awkward, and my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. So thank heavens for autofocus cameras.
Yeah.
But I it really is. I like, my son is playing. He plays, like Fred played football to quite a good level, and Florian, my youngest, is playing in this team. He's just turned 14 last weekend, and he's really good. He's really athletic and everything. But he sort of said, "Oh, I can't kick the ball hard enough because he's really strong." And I said to him, it's like, because we play badminton, it's like any sport. It's just a repetitive muscle memory thing.
Yeah.
And, I said to him, when you play badminton, plays with his other brother, Oscar, and, he's getting better now because his wrist is starting to snap, and he's
Yeah.
generating power that way. And if you look at David Beckham, he's
not
not a
hitting
really
it hard.
muscular guy. He's just pinging it. It's about
It's technique.
timing. It's like it's the same hitting a golf ball or throwing a dart or playing snooker or anything. It's all about repetition and learning, and all those things I'm enthusiastic about as well. I'm not a bad snooker player or
Oh, I'm gonna have to come down and whoop your ass then, because I
yeah, I'm
love
sure
it.
you're much better than me. But yeah,
No.
my snooker has actually really deteriorated because I had a detached retina, so
Oh
that
God.
does
Right.
affect the distance. But it actually, that's an interesting aside. Is it doesn't affect photography as much as you'd think it would,
Yeah.
because basically photography isn't about just the visual. It is about sort of understanding the light, and it doesn't have
Mm.
to be, your eyes don't have to be resolving reality in a crisp, sharp way for
Yes.
you to understand how light will react on a sensor or whatever.
I've found that just this week with the Voigtlander
Mm,
lens that I've got.
mm,
I've been so cheating using great autofocus lenses, excuse me.
Is it a Voigtlander lens on a digital camera?
Yeah. Oh God, I'm sorry about this. It's 40 mil f1.2 on the Nikon ZF. So this is quite new to me. I've been shooting on. I've had all second-hand cameras most of my life.
Yeah,
and bought second-hand because they are so expensive. And
a funny thing that happened late, just for the channel, I'm so miserly. I basically don't spend. I spend a spend so I don't fetishize camera gear. I don't buy lots of gear.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so obvious that it's not the camera.
yeah,
And just lately, we wanted to do the galleries, the sort of living room galleries, sort of. And we only had all I had with for the doing the videos is a Sony with a standard 55 Zeiss lens. And I looked on Facebook Marketplace, and sort of near me was this guy selling, I think it was a 24 to 70 zoom Zeiss lens that goes on a Sony mirrorless, but it's not particularly fast. It was like a 4.5 was the fastest aperture, and he was selling it. He was an amateur photographer, and he shot wildlife, and he was selling it, and then he was going to buy the really fast equivalent that was sort of about £2,500, and I bought it off him. I think it was 250 or 300 quid or something, and then I've been using it solidly. I
yeah.
took it, all the pictures I took, which we're going to do a video about.
I think it might be our next video
with Keir Starmer. It shot all these amazing pictures, and it was just a cheap second-hand lens that came off Facebook Marketplace, and the amateur photographer was buying a £2,000 lens.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was sort of a bit slow meant that it's quite small and it's really sharp. I mean, it's horrific. It's such a great little camera, the Sony. I mean, I bought it just to do video, but I've been using it for stills, and it was brilliant, brilliant camera for photographing Keir Starmer, because I was in very low light situations, and the autofocus is exceptionally good.
We get to talk a bit to yourself, because I've got you down here. Fred is known for kung fu, 10-pin bowling.
Oh yeah,
if you do
Harry Borden. Yeah,
if you do a Google search,
he's like a professional bowler in America, right? Who teaches bowling.
What, 10-pin bowling?
Yeah,
yeah.
He's quite good at 10-pin bowling.
Maybe I'm like
he got 187.
Bloody hell! Wow.
Yeah. He didn't beat my
bowling.
He didn't beat my high score. 194.
We'll have to go again. Yeah.
That was off for Google. So the Google's not lying. You are a pro 10-pin ball.
Pros, you're getting in the 200s, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yourself, are you fully into the? You worked as a software engineer, but
I was a software engineer for about 7 years.
Yeah.
I started when I was 18, maybe 8 years, and
he did a degree apprenticeship at the Royal Bank of Canada.
Yeah, so they kind of hired me in at 18.
Yeah,
and very quickly realized that I wasn't suited for.
But you were successful.
I did well. Yeah, I did well.
He was writing fintech, the code for their fintech.
Yeah, I was in. Well, I was in. It was called the RAD team, Rapid Application Development. So I was handling traders and making applications for them while they kind of traded, and they sat next to them. They could test them out really quickly and tell me, "Oh no, this needs to change. This
it's failing. It's
yeah." And then so I did that, and then I left the bank, went to this oil company, and did a bit of work for them for about 2 years, and then realized that I can't do this. So saved up some money. We'd already been working on the YouTube channel a little bit. I think we just got monetized. Yeah. And I thought, full send it. I've got a spare room upstairs, which I've been Airbnb-ing as well. So that and YouTube is just about keeping me alive.
Oh, the joys of youth, eh? Keep on it. Yeah.
I think I'm hopeful about the channel. I feel like eventually it'll be able to sustain me on its own. So
it certainly will. Oh God,
you never know, truly, but
you don't. I see some.
I have to I've got to give it a go, and
yeah,
and it's even if it doesn't go well, I said in a recent video, the opportunities it's brought have been worth the pay cut alone. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
and
agree.
that's pretty nice. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
got a
You
lot
wouldn't
closer.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for YouTube, because you've seen my videos. If I was just a podcaster, you'd probably like, who's this guy from up north? I'm not talking to that monkey, you know. It's a great way to present your personality and be
I
someone.
think anyone doing anything online interests me. Like I grew up on the internet.
Yeah.
YouTube was like my childhood, like media.
That's your TV.
That was my TV, and it's
Yeah.
going to continue to be that way. And like I was saying today, I read this article, and it was like comparing how much money each of the like streaming platforms were earning, and YouTube wasn't even on the chart, and Netflix was at the top by far, but
Yeah.
YouTube is probably way above Netflix.
I think YouTube's 10% of the streaming.
Something like that. Yeah.
No, well, it's unbelievable. Like YouTube don't pay anything for their content, like, and they get half of everything you earn from it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can see another one coming. I don't think this is over by a long shot. I think, dare I say, with X and other channels, there are more and more video.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think YouTube needs competition, which is good for us.
Yeah, completely, definitely. It would
Yeah.
just give more incentives for us to create on YouTube. But I think we'd all end up just posting the same videos to each of the platforms, I can assume. But
Yeah, I've got Patreon. I think you have Patreon yourselves, don't you?
yeah,
So
we started it. I keep asking people. I keep asking on it like, oh, what do you guys want to see? Like, but I'm not getting too many opinions on what they want to see. But so I just share anything that doesn't make it into a video. I throw it on the Patreon, and
that's brilliant.
I'm
Yeah,
always there to answer questions and
yeah.
just kind of create a little community. It's quite
I'll be
nice.
going following you after anyway. I thought
Oh, no.
if they show up, I'll give them a couple of bob. You know.
Yeah. Again, we're sorry we were late.
Oh,
Stressful day.
it really doesn't matter.
What was interesting is the guy that we photographed today
Yeah.
Is a YouTuber, or he was a TikTok guy.
Right.
He's lovely, lovely guy. And I think it's really interesting the way that generationally famous people are kind of siloed. So when we were younger, when you and I were young, we would always a family maybe watch Wogan, and
Yeah.
you'd see Melanie Griffiths or some famous person being interviewed, or Parkinson or whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole family would see Jeffrey Boycott or whatever being interviewed by Parky.
Yeah.
And there was a sort of a familial consensus about who's famous. But what's intriguing is that now and I've noticed that my children, even Holly, but Fred and younger, they have a whole kind of culture that they're plugged in, and their parents have no idea who these people are, and these people are really, really famous.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of money, and they're very, very successfully performing, and having this whole industry that is completely that people are completely oblivious to. And for me, it started with memes. And and how it's interesting because
we used to make memes of you. Remember those?
I don't remember that, but my daughter looked at these people that were memes, or these kind of memes that were created. And then my youngest son, and she's 28 now, works for Meta. And then my youngest son, who's 14, he's looking at the same memes, and it's kind of an immortality.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in more decades, these same memes will just carry on.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of Darwinian process, and it sort of fascinates me. And the fact that you have these kind of hugely, the sidemen, KSI, people like that most people of our generation don't know anything about. They might hear their kids talking, or their kids might ask for a bottle of Prime or something.
Yeah.
But it's completely sort of polarized and sort of a separate and distinct lane. Whereas there's this kind of general consensus about who was famous, and now people are kind of, and so that's why it's interesting for me as a member of a kind of, a sort of middle-aged person, to be kind of entering into a different lane and sort of interfacing and interacting with the chap we were photographing today. He was lovely, wasn't he?
Really, really fun.
Yeah.
And do you have kids, Marley?
I do. I have two girls,
Oh.
10 and 12, soon to be 13 and 11. I can hear them actually. I don't know what they're doing, but
They're probably into their memes and
oh God. Well, they want YouTube channel. They see what I'm doing, and I think they get to a point where they're sick of me taking photographs, so they're quite happy with me. You've said this yourself about them being amused, and just outside here is the dining room and living room, and it's about 20 feet long, and it's just full of photographs of the kids because from about 2010, I just couldn't. I just when they were born, 2011, so I just started photographing them whenever I could, and they came in before because I do like me gear. I do. I love this.
yeah.
I love this lens actually because it's a manual focus, so and it's quite soft and has that classical feel to it. Because I did start with a Praktika at college and messed around with various cameras, and I got them in the room before saying, "I need to take a picture of you." I've not took a picture, and they're just not interested anymore. But then once I said what I was doing and who I was talking to, and I showed you on the video, and then she started making drawings of me because she saw was it Polly what did
Polly, yeah.
so because I've took a picture and I showed them that she started drawing, and she's just done a drawing of me with a really massive bald head, and I got your picture up and said, "Look." So that's wonderful that that's happened tonight actually, and yeah, I'm very lucky to have two healthy and lovely girls. I just hope they stay like that.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I remember I was photographed obviously all the time by dad, and then around 13, I'd say he probably didn't have any pictures from 13 to 20.
All the photographs just had this.
Yeah. She had a phone up like that before over her face. I'm like, I can't focus on your eyes, but no.
I remember when Fred was just so difficult. Like I'd be trying to sort of tell him the importance of doing something, and he'd go, "Dad, I don't care." That's so annoying.
He's outing me.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that now.
No, I'm very strict. Yeah.
So do you work with your dad full time or most of the time now?
So obviously, I've got my Airbnb, but then otherwise, I'll jump on. I'll assist him whenever he needs hand.
Fantastic.
I'll take anything, get some cash.
Well, the thing is that it's a good opportunity for him to, because if I'm doing a job for the Guardian or something, they will pay for an assistant, so it might as well be Fred.
Yeah.
And then Fred can get some B-roll, which we might be able to use, like all the shoots we've done since we did the channel. Fred's, if he's available, he'll come along. And like Ottolenghi, he's filming. And actually, it's funny. People respond really well. I mean, maybe it's because Fred's a sort of young, handsome man, but Ottolenghi, he quite liked Fred, I think.
We got on well, yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because
I work hard as well.
Yeah,
I try to anyway.
It's interesting actually, as an old guy, and you're on these sorts of shoots and stuff. We did a fashion shoot with this guy called Philip Salon for a fashion magazine.
So friends with Boy George.
Yeah, he was sort of part of the Blitz crowd in the 80s. And I noticed that all the crew were quite young, there were people, hair and makeup and stylists. And that Fred, they were more paying attention to Fred, when we were sort of sitting in, or they were looking at Fred and everything. And I think he's sort of more the alpha in that situation because he's bigger than me and he's got quite a deep voice and stuff. But I mean, I just think it's sort of it works really well. I mean, I think if in the past, I would have I did have my daughter along on some shoots, and then she would invariably be going, "Oh, Dad, can we get a coffee? I need a coffee." Or she'd be like, how much am I getting paid for this? I have to go home. I'm doing something, like really actually completely disruptive.
Outrageous for an assistant.
Yeah. Whereas whereas with Fred, it's most of the time it's really good
Yeah.
because it's people actually can see that he's a good assistant, and he's sort of paying attention and helping hold a reflector or something like that. And also, my assistants don't tend to need to have superlative levels of technical brilliance. But although having said that, today it was quite embarrassing because we were you do need a bit more technical expertise if you're making a film, especially with sound. And we have yet to establish a good way of kind of recording the sound, because that's so important, isn't it? And if
Yeah.
you have several people there, our daughter Polly was there, and Brad and another guy, John T, who sort of was helping. And we ideally it would be good if everyone was mic'd up so that we could mix the sound properly. But we've got to kind of cross that bridge.
Yeah, I need to do some more research for sure. Okay, yeah, we've got one. We haven't really tested it yet. But yeah, definitely.
I used to use. That's what I shot the owl video.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
just that shotgun.
I think it
Shotgun
worked
one.
well.
Yeah.
I think people will watch a video with like slightly worse visual but great audio, but they won't watch a video with awful audio but great visuals, I feel like.
We need to mention it, and I should mention it a few times. I'll mention it at the beginning, and I'll mention it at the end as well, that it's youtube.com at Fred and Harry Borden. Come on, everyone, subscribe who listens to this. I get about 500 listens per episode, which I'm really proud of. And it's growing slowly. As long as it's growing, I guess. It's a bit like democracy, isn't it?
On Spotify, or is it? So I've only seen your YouTube.
This is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and I've just built my website, finished it 4 or 5 days ago, switched to Squarespace because I was using WordPress, and I built my WordPress site about 5 years ago and felt that I couldn't do enough with it, and I want to be picture of the week, photo of the homepage ever changing. I've done a blog post on my book because I've got a book that I put out that I did in lockdown, and I want to do more. I've got 50 times around the sun, which is 5 years of YouTube and turning 50, and I want to do a book for that. So this was why I kind of reached out to you, because you do these projects and books, and that fascinates me, because I think having those things in your creative world, doing something that you want to do to just create, just make a thing. It is wonderful. I've wrote down a few. I know we've not even got into this, and you've just said you've shot someone, but what happened? What's happened in the past month, and what shoots are coming in the next month? It could be YouTube, or any inside scoops would be amazing.
Well, the TikToker today was
Yeah.
he's called Isaac HP. He's your daughters have probably seen him on TikTok, so he's definitely got a younger audience, but well, younger is in like 14 to 25, 30. Yeah, he says his analytics say 30, so
Lucky man.
So, yeah, he was today, and then obviously you've just come back from An-Stapa, the second shoot with him.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised how quickly things just crop up.
Yeah, that's what I tend to notice is Dad will ring me and be like, I might be shooting this guy like next week or next Monday, and then he'll bring me a text and be like, yeah, it's happening, I've got to go. Like
we just shot
you thought you had a weekend free, and then like 2 days before the weekend you're like, okay, I've got to go to Rome. Like
I had to shoot we shot which we need to talk about, this guy called Alex Hassel, who plays the sort of main beau in the new Jilly Cooper adaptation, the Rivals thing, the sort of sexy guy that Rupert Campbell Black, I think, is the name of the guy that he plays. But we shot him sort of for a fashion shoot for Arena Home Plus. But I'm at the moment in the process of converting a studio and sort of converting it into so it's fully kind of finished and everything. So in a way, it'll be a blessing not to have too many things on my plate, because it's a kind of relentless. You can feel a bit overfaced if you and things have been very busy, especially all that. I did about 8 days for The Guardian with Keir Starmer. I mean, that came out of the fact that I shot him in the summer. We did a film about that, and I got 5 minutes. And because we got on okay. He and his team thought it would be nice to do a sort of a photo essay, agreed to the Guardian, and so that was a great opportunity. So yeah, including getting a picture of Larry, the Downing Street cat, was a bit of a bonus. But
That's an awesome photo.
Yeah.
yes, I mean, it's really kind of that's what I like about the the nature of what I do is that you really don't know what you're going to be doing in the future. I mean, there's always things to be right now. I desperately have the next thing I definitely have to do, which is uh, uh, more important to me than getting any commissions from magazines, is my project on farmers.
Yeah.
So I photograph these farmers every 10 years, and the last 10 years was 2014. And so I really would like to shoot them before the end of the year. And that's more important. And given that we've got the YouTube channel, what I want to do is interview them, and then use the photographs, and possibly do some sort of animation from when they were in the 8 or something, and then they were sort of 18, and then they were 28, morphing from the photographs to a
Yeah.
sort of a soundtrack of them talking about why they love farming and how they feel about the photographs, and how their lives have changed. Because farming is one of the few industries that hasn't been sort of impacted on in the same way by this sort of this whole digital shift, to 0 hours contracts and insecurity, and the supercharging of the attention economy, social media. Farming is still pretty much the same as it's always been. You work until you're physically incapable of working. So it won't be a disaster if I don't get to shoot them until next year, but I'd like to get my decade next decade pictures. And one of my farmers that I photographed, he's lost a leg in a chainsaw accident, and
Within the decade.
within the decade, yeah.
Oh wow.
But I phoned them up, but I haven't actually got around. And I photographed one actually, to be fair, but the other nine I'd like to get them done before Christmas, and it's quite time consuming because they're really busy people,
Yeah.
and I like they're all lit with daylight, so they're very, very simple.
You don't you don't make things easy then, because if you want to animate from when they're 8 to 18 and all, these ideas are wonderful. But that's quite technical, isn't it? So yeah.
Well, it's I think the sort of idea for the project sort of took shape as I got older and I became middle-aged, and that was when I decided to I borrowed a Hasselblad digital camera because I'd photographed them all on a Fuji 6.7 rangefinder camera on Tri-X, and so I borrowed this Hasselblad, and then I sort of got pictures from their own archives to fill in their intervening years. So it's part of kind of project of curation as well as photography. But I think it's really quite poignant when it becomes more poignant, doesn't it, as you get older? Like when you're approaching 50, you start to sort of reflect on your own life, and I think it's very powerful. There's a friend of mine, Zed Nelson, I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he photographed this same family in his neighborhood, when they were a couple, and then they basically had a child, and he just would the black and white portraits consist of this family. He photographed them the same time every year, with the same backdrop.
Yeah.
And now the boy that was a little baby is, an adult standing in between two old people. Or there's the famous pictures of four sisters by, I think it's Nicholas Danzig, maybe. But it's a very famous series of pictures that he took a picture of his wife was one of the sisters with her sisters just every year. And I think that's a new kind of form of project that, as photography has become more ubiquitous, that we'll see more of, that's very sort of poignant as one gets older.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of clips of that where I don't know the boy's name. He shot himself over and over every single day until he was,
Yeah.
what, 20 odd or something.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. I think I better wrap up because you rushed to get here. You've given me everything and just wonderful passion about.
Are you sure? Are you sure you have everything? Because we wouldn't want you to be shortchanged.
I've still got all my questions here, which is fantastic. That means it's been successful. The fact that I've not been talking because I keep coughing. I love to listen, and it's been a joy. I've wrote down some names here where it's like Dermot Morgan, 4 feet, which was a picture of you and your little one. Michael Hutchins picture, love. Sean Hughes. Oh, wow. Just he made that man made me laugh a lot, and I love that picture.
He was very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, Rage Against Machines shocked me. And this was one of the things I noticed about a lot of your photography. I don't know if it's because we're similar generations, but there is a lean, a political lean, and there's this insight into you as well. Even though these are paid jobs, I'm fascinated by this kind of there's a meandering path of, oh God, I'm not going to get political, but there is most definitely some underlying meaning. Chumbawamba, Peter Green, PJ Harvey, the C-type print degrading is amazing. I couldn't believe that. Is wow. I love that. And then I've put, what channel plans have you got for the channel? But you've answered that. Both of you have created a fantastic channel, and I wish you all the luck in the world. And I will promote it, share it as much as I can.
Oh, that's really kind.
Sweet.
I'm getting into portrait photography myself, but more street portraits. I've been walking around Liverpool every week, twice a week, and just approaching people, and I'm really enjoying it. I've had a couple of fuck offs, but I'm not. I don't really care.
Dad speak about street photography, and you prefer the one to go up and actually approach people and say, "Can I take your portrait?"
Oh, absolutely.
Then
yeah.
just actually going and taking it.
I was
I
just going to say, someone was asking about advice to take better portraits, and I was saying, the best advice is to go out into your local town and just talk to strangers.
Yeah.
I mean, I was walking my dog the other day, and there was a guy. I think he said he was 52, and our dogs were sort of playing together. He had a sort of brown coloured Labrador.
Yeah,
a tawny sort of color, and we just got chatting and everything, and he didn't seem in a great place, and I just said, "Are you okay?" and he really appreciated me asking.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having a conversation about God and philosophy and everything, and I just think it's so important to connect with people, and that's one thing that photography affords you, that opportunity, doesn't it? Like you said, you go out in Liverpool and you meet your community, and most people will respond well.
Yeah,
that you're a very engaging person. I can see that. So I'm sure you have it's invigorating, isn't it?
it is. I do have a resting thug face though, so
yeah. I think that's the trouble with we've come full circle. Being a member of the bald community, if you've got, I think the beard softens it, but it is kind of, it's been well used by the far right, and kind of, we grew up in the shadows of skinheads and that.
We do, yeah.
Everything
but then the Ghost Town song and the reggae and ska saves us from that. The anti-fash movement that
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
So I do often lean on the fact that the anti-fascists, and there's a lot of bald ones of them as well. Nice people.
Exactly.
Well, I think we'll finish there. An absolute pleasure, Harry, Fred. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I really hope you enjoyed that talk with Fred and Harry. I certainly did. Excuse the continuity problem here. It's took me 3 days to put this video together, and what a joy it's been. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. I wanted this to just be a straight conversation on YouTube and over on the podcast sphere. All the details are down below. Go to Fred and Harry Borden on YouTube and give a click, little finger, like and subscribe. Do the same for me if you've enjoyed this and you watched it to the end. Thank you so much. Right, there's not much more to say apart from if you're enjoying this content and you're enjoying the new flourish of videos I'm putting out on YouTube, don't forget there's a growing community on Patreon. Come over and join me for a couple of bob. Right, there's only one thing left to say, and that's... See there.